Let's over to you first. Do you want to introduce Leverage Edu for those who don't know?
Thank you, Amy, for giving the stage, as always. Very excited to meet all of you. This is my first 24 hours in Toronto, so very excited about being in the country. There are many like me who essentially call this country home, so even excited to kind of meet all of these people. But yeah, just very excited to be on this esteemed panel and hopefully share my view around how we look at these things. We operate at a certain scale in the UK right now, because of which we are able to learn a lot of things and just keep our head down, execute and make use of these insights. So I'm happy to, of course, I'm here largely to learn, not to opine on a lot of things, but I'll share what we have learned in the last 5 years in our journey, and maybe some of those insights can be something that you can mull on. And I'm really looking forward to learn from my peers on the panel as well. So I think I completely agree to Anna. The larger point that Anna was making around technology coming in and making things much smoother for everybody. And of course, we have to realize at the end of the day that this is a business that is built around relationships. So I think a better understanding of what are the real motivations for both the universities and the students. I'm kind of just taking that. A student who is, and I think I would also speak for Indian students who are coming in all across the world. So a typical student who was generally, I would say, for the top 80-90%, a typical student who was coming in from China, predominantly was somebody who was looking to come in and study in the UK, Canada, US, and then largely go back to the country. But the typical student is coming in from India. It's a conduit to largely to immigrate or to kind of work and settle in that country as well. So I think as long as you understand that the real motivation also is to find gainful employment at the end of a degree program, and then you essentially have to cater your value proposition as a partner or as a university in line with what the students really want, and in line with what we essentially like, whether the program is a right match for the student or not. Just to kind of add another point to it, so while I think a lot of things have improved, and as rightly pointed out by Anna, I would put them in the bucket of communication. But I think there's still massive challenges like which can also be further solved with technology. For example, around quality. So there has to be, I think, a lot of, I don't know how many universities and how many agents in the room. I should have done a hand raise before.
If you're an institution, raise your hands.
Okay, so I should measure my words carefully. But anyway, I'll go on. I'll be candid. That's what I end up being very candid around Amy. But I think, and don't beat me up after this, but I think universities also have to, I think there's a demand supply mismatch at times. So a university might commit that, hey, there are X number of seats that you can kind of apply towards. And then I think because there's not so much technology built out at the university, and they might come back and say, hey, you know what, while I said 400 seats, but now I only have 100. And then as an agent or as a partner, you essentially have already kind of spent the money, kind of put in resources for a larger number. Similarly, I think there's a lot of back and forth and I would say unnecessary bad blood that sometimes happens at scale when it comes to quality, right? But there has to be, we have to start putting, ironically enough, a quantitative measure to it. So we can't say, it can't be very subjective. It has to be, okay, these 4 points make for good quality and these 4 points make for bad quality. And this is how we'll essentially, this is an operating standard. So I think we have a lot of bodies out there, UKVCI, and I think a lot of other bodies in Canada, Buila, all of these. So I think everybody needs to come together as an ecosystem, the universities, the agents, and say, okay, this is what good stands for, this is what bad stands for in terms of quality. Make it very, very visible out there, quantitative. And at the same time also, there has to be a better way, like we have solved for communication between universities and students, we also need to solve for demand, supply, match, mismatch. I think that will just, I think that is really good for all of us together as an ecosystem. Sorry for going into too much detail, but...
No, so it's interesting, so you sound like you're calling for more transparent data, the way that you've seen that achieve some of the partners. You want that in terms of, we will consider the students bona fide students if they match this criteria. You want clear, transparent data around that.
I think that will help everybody.
And how many of your institutional partners do you think are providing that sort of clear blueprint? This is the sort of profile we need, and this is how we measure that.
What do you mean very uncomfortable questions? As I thought about our 5 partners to whom we have sent 500 plus students each, tangible things, not metrics, but I think at the center of it, there's just a significant trust between both the parties. And something as simple as we go out for dinners, we go out for like drinks. When I'm in the country or when they're essentially visiting, we spend too much time together with each other. We go to each other's offices. So I think that at the and there's of course the turnaround time on applications. There's of course the offer speed. There's of course commission speed on time, and all of those tens of things. But I think at the end of the day, if, of course there is when a university works with multiple partners or when a partner works with multiple universities, there is going to be some bias. But I think as you kind of solidify those relationships, I think a lot just kind of gets eased off with just those human-to-human basic interventions like maybe a quick 15-minute Zoom call or a quick phone conversation or a quick WhatsApp. India runs on WhatsApp, so I keep referring to that, but text messages largely. But I think trust really is a bedrock of this entire business, be it at the agent in the university side, be it with a student, or I think be it with any other stakeholder person.
Thank you very much. I think we'll leave it on that note, which is it's all about the people. I saw a lot of nods in the room. I think you'll agree. I hope you found this session really useful. I have been told that we have to help assimilate into a country. How do you work with your university partners and institutional partners to make sure your students are supported?
So thanks for the question. In fact, I think what my friend said about we all have to be student first at the center of everything that we do. I think that just kind of resonates across multiple things that we do. I won't go through the whole laundry list of things that we do more specifically, but I think there's a clear realization that you have to do multiple things that just make the whole process as seamless and as easy as possible. So a couple of things that we do is we build up a community for people to engage with before they get into college and once they're in college as well. So suppose if I'm in UCW and I can interact with everybody who has gone through XYZ platform to UCW this year, and we can figure out, okay, where do I want my Indian food or Mediterranean food, and how should I figure out my finances. For the whole financial services gamut, we realized that we did not want to kind of do loans on our own books. So we realized that our progress with their is going to be getting a bunch of students together and get them to rally for the best interest rate, the best service, the best terms. Similar things on the job side as well. I think we very clearly realized that students who are coming in, at least from other emerging countries minus China, they are looking at this as a conduit towards immigration, conduit towards gainful employment. So we essentially built up a small team back home which talks about getting a resume ready, getting a first cover letter ready, how to kind of engage with a foreign recruiter and things like that. And so right down from sending a card to receive them at the airport for the first time when they're kind of absolutely clueless, oh, this is a foreign country, the weather is very cold, let me find a code that can actually take care of me in this foreign weather, to essentially helping them settle through with the first few things, the mobile SIM, basic bank account and things like that. And I think that even if you are kind of not doing these vertically as businesses, just by kind of doing this as a platform, and we use the platform word when we kind of do other things minus student recruitment, I think that just kind of really helps, lets the student kind of trust the company way more, and that's how I think in the longer run we essentially are able to get more happy students, and as you get happy students, you have happy universities, because universities also in the longer run, also I would like to believe, when the right student come to the right program, who's able to essentially find the right output for themselves, because that's how these students give great testimonials to the universities. Universities are able to move their ranks up, increase their fee also sometimes, and that's how the ecosystem kind of keeps moving forward. So I think it's as long as the student is at the center of everything that you do, very well intentioned, very forcefully, things are just going to kind of end up fine always and always.
That's good. Yeah, we actually have. Do please ask a question. I've got plenty, but we don't have that long.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
I'm Tony Williams with Navitas. One of the things we're looking at with our agent networks is not only judging on what everyone in this room tries to do, which is get as many students in the door as quickly as possible, but also the progression, because our business is all about progression and success. How do we change the discussion and the metrics we're measuring our partners on? And I think it's not so much, it needs to be less about how many thumbs in the first year in seeds.
Can I jump in?
And how far can we start measuring students actually graduating?
Certainly, so I don't want to talk too much about the company, you already see a lot about it already. But at least for us, we know that our number one metric is not students. And you can speak to any of my colleagues in here, any other destinations or back home in India. our number one metric, north metric at the company is referrals. So we talk about, okay, how many students, we have an NPS of 83, how many students are essentially, so right from when a student gets onboarded on a platform to the time they kind of finally land, we have 36 different touch points at which a student kind of ranks us on a 1 to 10. And then we finally see that the real reward for us having done a good job was the student able to refer 2, 3 colleagues, friends to us, who essentially come back in a funnel. And this makes sense for me as a missionary business, but this makes also sense for me as a business because if I have more referrals coming in, my cost of acquiring the next potential user is going down, my margins go for an upswing, I'm more profitable in the future. So this is where I would say the mission part and the money part both come together. And I think at least I would say, I would like to think more companies have started to think like ourselves and are really thinking about these things, because that's the only way they can build a long-term sustainable business if they really want to kind of have a long lens towards things. But I would say universities need to start asking these questions as well.
It's really important.
Absolutely.
Ages contracts for ages to send us hundreds of students, because those students weren't planning actually to come to us. They come to us for 6 months and then head off somewhere else.
That's also, the pathways market works differently in different countries, but yeah, that's also a very different thing.